210 Boxing TV here with former junior welterweight champion Chris Algieri. Chris, as you can see right behind you, we have it. Canelo versus Charlo. We're just a day away. The guys just weighed in. They both weighed in at 167.4. How did you see them physically, and how do you think this fight's gonna go?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take from weigh-ins in general. This one in particular, I was really curious to see what Charlo's physique was going to look like on the scale. I was curious to see what he was going to come in weight-wise. Wasn't really surprised that he came in at just around 168. Listen, he's a 54-pounder. I know he cuts a lot of weight, so he's probably around that come fight time normally for 54 anyway. So pretty much, I'm assuming he's just weighing in, right? But his physique looked a little softer than I would have liked to have seen, especially in the midsection. And even this week, I didn't see as much confidence in his interviews and certain things he was saying, and that kind of showed on stage. Canelo looked, his swag was on 1,000. He looked very confident. The stare down, I thought you could see Canelo growing, having his man in front of him, and not to mention his physique. He looked like a tank in it. Which he generally has, in recent years, fighting at 68. But yeah, man, listen, Charlo has all the goods. He does a lot of things that can really give Canelo trouble, and we've seen that. But we got weight classes for a reason, and I think the inactivity is going to hurt Charlo. Coming back to the biggest fight of his career in terms of the stage and his opponent. And man, it's Canelo Alvarez. I know a lot of people are saying he's over the hill, he's getting older, but even a subpar Canelo is still Canelo.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk a lot more about Charlo. As you said, Charlo doesn't have the usual rough demeanor that he usually has on normal fights. Sorry for saying it, but shit talking, just trying to downplay his opponent and everything. He was actually very respectful. Yep. Why do you think he came into this fight, not only this week, but actually through the beginning of the entire process, he's been this exact same way? Well,
every interaction I've ever had with Jamel, he's very respectful. I think he's a very respectful champion and man, and he respects the sport and people who are in the sport. So I'm not really surprised at that. But I thought there was opportunities for him to try to get under Canelo's skin, and I thought he might. And I thought at the weigh-in he was going to. And he didn't take those opportunities. Not that it's easy to get under Canelo's skin. No one's really been able to do it. The only guy who did it was Caleb Plant, and we saw how that turned out. He got smacked, for that. But Canelo's a really tough guy to deal with in terms of that, because he's just very calm, very, very calm, and it takes a lot to get under his skin. He responds in a very crisp way. So it could be that. It could have been that maybe he didn't see an opportunity to try and get underneath Canelo's skin or go outside of the box that way. I believe he had mentioned something about his brother not being around, and that's part of the reason why he hasn't been as vocal as he has in the past. But I don't know. I think it could also just be respect for Canelo and the stage that they're on.
You just mentioned his brother, Jamal, hasn't been around, but yet Jamal showed up for the weigh-in, actually, backing up his brother. So that, could boost him up. Not to the point where he talks smack or go back at it, just gives him a boost in the ring or just mentally.
1,000%. My brother's my best friend in the world, and he's been around for pretty much all of my professional career, especially at the highest levels, and it always helped to have him around. Anytime that he wasn't there, it certainly did affect me. I can't imagine what it's like for a twin. There's a different kind of connection for that. So I was happy to see him on the stage and happy that they could resolve some of their issues, at least some of them, that he was able to come out and support his brother. It's huge, man. Family is everything. But beyond whatever happens on Saturday night, your family's your family.
Now, you said something earlier, and you said there are weight classes for a reason.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they were both at 154, and even then, Charlo always was not only taller but bigger than Canelo. Obviously, he didn't have to cut those extra 14 pounds and everything you said. Physically, he doesn't look as sturdy as you wanted him to look. But don't you think that's somewhat of an advantage for Charlo, not having to cut those extra 14 pounds off?
No.
Why not?
I don't.
Why not?
I don't.
Explain it to us. Explain it to me.
Yep.
Explain it to the boxing fans, because you would think that. They're not cutting that weight, so it's actually giving them more power or more strength or a little bit more. So why do you say it doesn't?
A lot of people have been saying that, oh no, he's the bigger guy. He's really not. Charlo's got a really thin waist. He's very beat out. And yeah, his physique is physically demanding at 54. I didn't see that at 68. And yeah, there's going to be a degree where, he didn't have to cut any weight, so he's not going to be as depleted, but he's got to make adjustments in terms of what his post-weigh-in meals and food leading up to the fight are going to be. If he doesn't, he's going to be sluggish. And he might be sluggish anyway, because he's carrying extra weight. And like I said, some of that weight wasn't exactly good weight. So, there's going to be issues there. And another thing, and this is really inside baseball, kind of inside boxing talk, that a lot of times when it comes to, and I've heard other fighters say this too, comes to cutting weight and being uncomfortable in fight week, it gets you in the mindset to be a nasty prick, because you need to be. And I know I had issues at 47 because I didn't have to cut weight for 47. It wasn't physically demanding for me. The weeks were kind of easy, fight weeks, where fight weeks are normally tough when I had to fight at 140. And that can affect a fighter's mentality and how they perform. I'm not saying that that's the issue with Jermell. Everyone's mindset's different leading up to a fight. But for me, it's more about the 2 weight classes in a very short period of time. Where, as you made the point that Canelo used to be a 54, but he has had time to develop mature, dense muscle in that time. And I know how his team operates. There's nothing by accident for Team Canelo. They take supplements, they have physical training, they work diligently on keeping his physique ready year round. The guy's always in shape, he's always training. Just a different kind of muscle, and that kind of density and muscle maturity takes time. And although Charlo has the frame for the weight, I don't think he's had enough time to build the proper lean tissue to be a true 68-pounder. But honestly, he doesn't really need to be one in order to beat Canelo. He's got to use his boxing skills and his discipline anyway. Yeah,
you just saying that actually brought back the memory of Danny Garcia with that fight week story where he said it was nothing but water and I think a head of lettuce. That's all he ate throughout fight week because he just couldn't eat anything.
Hunger makes you angry, man. And being nasty is a good thing for this sport, especially when you're wealthy. When you got silk sheets, man, it's hard to think about digging into that nastiness that you need for a fight. So I know that was always a big aspect for me. The suffering of making weight made me a meaner person because ultimately I don't have a lot of things to be that mad about. My life has always been pretty darn good. So cutting weight made me feel the suffering that I needed to in order to be nasty enough to go in there and do what I need to do.
Now, finally, again, it's the main event tomorrow. Give us your prediction. How do you see it going down? Do you see it stoppage? Do you see it going to full 12? How do you see it?
I've been pro Canelo for much of this lead up. Again the weight class, but on my tape review of both these guys, where I did an in-depth study of both of them, I really like the way Jermell Charlo fights. He does a lot of things that could really give Canelo issues and things that have given guys issues in the past. But the factors against him, the long layoff it weighs on me heavily for Jermell Charlo. The long layoff, the 2 weight classes, the coming back into the biggest fight of his career, the biggest stage possible against a guy like Canelo. So I'm sticking with Canelo. I could see it I can see us seeing the final bell, but I could also see Canelo by late round stoppage. I'm looking at almost like a Caleb Plant, Canelo Alvarez type fight where like how Plant was very competitive early on. I can see Charlo being very competitive with his athleticism, his hand speed, his respectable power. But I think Canelo's power and pressure, I always say he's got 2 Ps, power and pressure are going to wear on him the second half of the fight. And I think that the extra weight's not going to benefit him then.
Before I let you go, huge news was announced earlier today. And you said biggest stages in boxing, and there is no bigger stage than being the heavyweight champion of the world. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk. Undisputed.
Yes.
Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury have signed a fight to fight into, I believe, Saudi Arabia. So your thoughts on that fight, because we're finally getting something we've all been looking forward to.
Well, I've been saying this fight's not going to happen, so I'm not ready to eat my words yet because I'm not sure this fight's actually going to happen or not, especially not in December. There's no way it happens in December because he's got the Ngannou, Fury has the Ngannou fight late October.
October, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see early December. Unless he's using the Ngannou fight, not really training that hard, using that as kind of like a sparring session to the fight, which is possible, but I still don't see that. I don't know, I'll believe it when I see it. Fury, if there's anything predictable about him, is that he's unpredictable.
Yes.
And you never know what he's going to choose to do. And he's really in the driver's seat. So he could decide to make the fight. He could decide not to make the fight. And I don't think he cares what anybody says either. So whether we see the fight or not, that's yet to be seen. I'm happy that they're moving in the direction towards that fight because I think it's really important to have an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Because listen, we're in the undisputed era. We're seeing a lot of undisputeds now. And I think it's a good thing for the sport. But we need an undisputed heavyweight champion.
Let the fans know where they can follow you, get to know more about you, and just basically see what you're doing nowadays.
Check out my podcast, Inside Boxing Live with Dan Canobio. We post twice a week. We cover everything around the sport. Pro Box TV, we got fights every 2 weeks. Also, we have a lot of news and daily news and shows that I do with Paulie Malignaggi, Sean Porter, Tim Bradley, Teddy Atlas. So a lot of ways to keep the content that we're putting out there. So Inside Boxing Live, ProBoxTV.com, and then my socials. If you know my name, you can find me.
All right, thank you for your time, Chris Algieri.
Absolutely.